As many of you probably know, British counterterrorism police on Thursday raided the home and seized several electronic devices belonging to our colleague Asa, an associate editor at the Electronic Intifada. Approximately 10 officers arrived at Asa's North London home before 6 a.m. and served the journalist with warrants and other papers authorizing them to search his house and vehicle for devices and documents. A letter addressed to Winstanley from the Counter-Terrorism Command of the Metropolitan Police Service indicates that the authorities are, quote, aware of your profession as a journalist, but that, quote, notwithstanding, police are investigating possible offenses under Sections 1 and 2 of the Terrorism Act of 2006. These provisions set out the purported offense of, quote, encouragement of terrorism. Asa, before we go to the rest of the show, we wanted to have you talk about the situation and tell us any updates on this egregious act of intimidation and attempt at censorship by the British police. What happened to you?
Well, it's part of an escalating pattern of oppression by the British state against activists who campaign in solidarity with Palestine in Britain, and increasingly now journalists. As we've covered on the stream, the journalist Richard Medhurst had his devices seized when he was crossing the border, when he was coming into Britain. Similar things have happened in the past. Last year to Tony Greenstein, who's, as we've mentioned before, is a contributor to the Electronic Intifada, a published author. For him, they specified certain posts on X, formerly Twitter, that they claimed were illegal. They arrested him. They charged him. In my case, they didn't arrest or charge me, which is it's unusual. Like, I don't think it happens very often, and yet they have invaded my home. They didn't break down the door physically, but there's no doubt they could have done that if they'd chosen to do so. It was 5:40 in the morning. It was still dark. We heard a very loud initial ringing of the doorbell, then banging on the door very insistently. Open up. When we said, "Who is it?" they said, "It's the police." And they were very, very insistent, and so I had to go down and unlock the door in my dressing gown. And there was about 10 or so police officers. It was hard to tell. They took control of the house, and they took all my devices that I use for my journalism. Took my computers, my phone, an old phone, iPad, and they were very specific, as you mentioned, Nora. They said they wanted me to specify to them which devices were used for journalism. And, from their point of view, from what they were claiming to me, this was so that they didn't interfere with my work as a journalist, that they didn't want to cause me problems. But it was all extremely Kafkaesque in that sense. They weren't personally violent, or it was very British in a lot of ways, right? There was this sort of patina of fairness, right, and not being rude, but and they tried to do things by the book, because obviously, they know I'm a journalist and they know we're going to report on this. So that's the situation. I haven't been charged with anything. I haven't been arrested, and they're claiming that I violated these laws. Well, we'll see about that, and we'll see what what my legal team are able to find out more about what they are claiming that I've done wrong, because they wouldn't say. The senior officer, I said, so why are you doing this? And he would only say social media posts, and he refused to specify which social media posts. Our legal team is going to try and find out more, and I think we will be finding out more. And I've had a lot of support. Like, I really want to thank everybody who's watching, because and you guys as well. The loyalty of the team at EI was never in doubt. But I feel the support from around the world from you guys, and it's very humbling. And I thank everybody who's watching, because I know. I'm sorry if I haven't replied to your message. I probably haven't, because I'm sort of overwhelmed with all sorts of supportive messages, emails, texts, all sorts of messages of support and outrage. And I've had some private messages of support from people that you may be surprised about. So yeah, so it's obviously a blow. There's no doubt about that. Everything's obviously, I've got access to my own data and my own archive, but it takes a while to rebuild these things. Regular viewers will probably recognize the angle of my cameras different. I'm on my new phone at the moment. We can rebuild. We will build. They won't stop me carrying on. And I've already started writing a new article with pen and paper. So
back to basics.
That's what we're doing for now. And we'll be rebuilt. We'll be back better. We're back stronger, and they won't stop us.
No, they won't. Ali, what can you say about what we're doing about defending Asa and his property and his work, but also defending the work of all of us at the Electronic Intifada?
Yeah, just a couple of things I want to add to what Asa said. That I believe the police subsequently clarified this wasn't in their initial documentation, but they subsequently clarified that there was, they clarified the the provisions of the Terrorism Act that they were acting under. And these are provisions that are purely about criminalizing speech. This is really important to emphasize. And we don't know what they're accusing Asa of. As Asa said, he wasn't arrested, he wasn't charged. They wouldn't reveal the social media posts that they claim may be in violation of these laws. But we know that they've used these laws in other cases to criminalize mere statements of fact. I mean, if you were to say that Palestinians have a right to resist Israeli military occupation, under these draconian laws, they could construe that as an invitation to support terrorism, even though the right to resist is enshrined in international law. And there's no question Palestinians have a right to resist. So it's important for people to understand the really draconian level of this kind of repression. And, excuse me, and that these laws would be completely unconstitutional were they in the United States. I'm certainly not painting the United States as a paragon of free speech. We know that that's not the case. And as we've said, censorship in the United States is carried out through private institutions like universities and media companies and social media platforms like some of the ones that people will be viewing us on now. But the government in the US could not do what the British authorities are doing to Asa. Now, the devices, as Asa said, the devices which the police seized include the devices, Asa's phone, his computer, that he uses for his journalism for the Electronic Intifada. And we consider this to be material that should be privileged, that a journalist's sources should be protected. There would have to be really extraordinary circumstances for the state to try to invade that kind of privileged material. And that's 100% not the case here, not even remotely. They've even said that this is about things that opinions Asa has posted, or perhaps factual statements, we don't know yet, that Asa has posted on social media. So there's no pretext on which they could possibly need to be snooping around Asa's hard drives or phone. So we, as the Electronic Intifada, have hired the law firm Bindmans in the UK, which is one of the best law firms. Their lawyer Tayyab Ali is renowned in the UK for his proficiency with these kinds of cases. And our instructions to him are to do whatever he can to prevent the British state from accessing any material on Asa's devices that relates to the journalism of the Electronic Intifada. We will do what we can to protect our sources, to protect our information as a matter of principle, to resist this attack on media freedom, and to defend Asa's rights, our rights, and the rights of all journalists.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Ali. Asa, can you talk about kind of the mood that these kinds of intimidation tactics have created within, leftist journalist circles? I mean, as you said, this is not the first time in recent months that the UK police have gone after journalists, specifically those who post about or write about Palestine. What is this kind of raid on your house and seizure of your devices meant to do, and how is it reverberating within similar circles in the UK?
Yeah, I think it is intended to send a message. It's intended to spread a chilling effect. It's intended as a warning. It's intended to stop the mass support there is for Palestine. And I don't mean from the individual, even from the individual officers. Some of those individual officers may have been very genuine in and of themselves when they were saying, well, we don't want to stop you doing journalism, but you're suspected of violating the law, so we have to do our job. They may have been personally genuine about that. I can't know what's in their minds, but whoever is deciding in the higher up authorities to carry on with this kind of political persecution has in mind the fact that they don't have control of the British population. For a year, people have carried on resisting the genocide in Gaza. People are coming out on the streets week in and week out. The actions of Palestine Action, the direct action group, which has carried on since it was formed in 2000, from targeting the facilities in this country of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Systems, the Israeli drone maker, arms manufacturer, weapons systems manufacturer, which has nearly 10 premises in this country, 2 less than they used to have, because Palestine Action have forced at least 2, I think maybe 3 now of them out of business, as we've covered on this stream and in our articles in the past. And of course, Palestine Action activists have been some of my sources in the past. So it really raises the question of, is this a fishing exercise? Are they trying to get to Palestine Action through me? Are they trying to endanger other activists? Is this a personal vendetta by the higher up authorities against me as somebody who has written a book weaponizing anti-Semitism, of course, about how the Israel lobby brought down Jeremy Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party before he could become Prime Minister, how there was interference by the British state, how there was interference by the Israeli state in Britain, in the British political process, in collusion with the American deep state and the British deep state. I've been reporting for a decade on these issues in the Labour Party. The Labour Party is now in government. Is there an element of personal vendetta about this? We don't know. We don't know the reality of what's going on with the decision makers. This whole thing is extremely very opaque, but it's sending a message to other activists, to academics, intellectuals, other journalists, and even a few politicians who may be more on the left, that it's a warning to them, because Sarah Wilkinson, Tony Greenstein, Mick Napier, Craig Murray, the former ambassador, as well, in the past, who the former British ambassador, who is now a journalist in his own right, a writer, a blogger, and a campaigner, parliamentary candidate, and so forth, but also was also stopped on the border at a certain point. There's got to be a lot of people now asking who is next. Now Asa Winstanley has had his home raided. Who's next? Who's going to be next? And the reality is, we just don't know. But it seems unlikely. Even if this is the end of it for me, You know, I don't know whether it's the end of it for me. I mean, this is part of the effect that, and this is, you know, my sources in activist circles who this has happened to over the last few years, and not just the last year. This is what they always say, like, it's intended to keep this hanging over your head. It's like what the Israelis do in the West Bank. You know, they say, well, we're taking out a case, and they don't charge you, but they keep it over your head, like they sort of imply that they could possibly charge you in the future. It has a very, very serious chilling effect, and it has a large degree of uncertainty. So I don't know whether or not this is the end of it or just the beginning of it. I just don't know. That's the reality. So it's intended to send a message. It's intended to stop people from supporting the Palestinians, and that's ultimately what this is all about. But people are not lying it down. People are outraged, and there seems to be no strategic thinking by the British state here. Very much, you know, like we've discussed time and time again on this stream, very much like the Israelis. There's no strategic thinking. The Israelis are killing and killing and killing, and there's no forethought to the fact that if they kill the resistance leaders now, it's only going to inspire the next generation of Palestinian people who are resisting them and resisting what they're doing. So in a similar way here in this country, the fact that young people are being young people who are trying to campaign and trying to stop these arms factories from being shut down are being put into solitary confinement in British jails right now and are suffering and being put into isolation, and all kinds of oppression that we barely hear about, as we've talked about when we've had Palestine Action on the past and the stream. It, in the longer term, it raises awareness. Those people's families and those people's friends are going to be thinking, what is going on here? What is so serious? What is so wrong about what they've done? And in the same way, you know, what's happened to me has engendered so much support. Like just a small thing, my last article has gone viral again, I've noticed. So, you know, it's brought more attention to my work in that way. So this is the silver lining, that there's no, they are setting up themselves for failure in the future.
Yep. Thanks for that, Asa. Ali, what can we say about where this goes next? Oh, you're muted, Ali.
I'd just like to reiterate Asa's thanks to everyone, because we've also received an enormous number of messages of support, and lots of people have been asking. I mean, I even see people saying that in the comments now, what can we do to help? And my answer to that is raise a ruckus about this, because these intimidation tactics only work if they can isolate people. But if they see that there is a big uproar and the public are telling their politicians and their MPs and whoever it is and saying this is outrageous, then that does have an impact. In terms of the legal process, we're at the beginning of that. So I don't know yet exactly how that's going to play out. What I can say is we are determined to do everything we can to stop the British authorities from accessing these devices, which we consider to be a gross violation of free speech, of media freedom, of human rights, completely unjustifiable, and we will fight to stop that. And so what we will do is we will keep people informed as we can. And when there's something we can do, lots of people have said, can I make a donation to support any legal costs? At the moment, we're not asking specifically for that. Maybe sometime down the road, we'll need that, and we'll ask people. And I know lots of people will want to be there. We greatly appreciate your general support for EI, for Asa's journalism. This raid on his home, this outrageous attack came just days after he published that viral article about how Israel killed hundreds of its own people on October 7th. So to continue to defy the government by sharing the journalism and making sure more people know about it. And also, as Asa said in a tweet yesterday that I thought was a very lovely tweet, Asa, that keep the focus on Gaza. do stay tuned to this, and we will keep you informed, but we want to keep the focus on Gaza because all of this is about suppressing opposition and resistance to this genocide.
Exactly. Well, thanks. And obviously we'll be updating as things progress. Just thank you to everyone for your support over the last week around this, and of course over the last 12 months of this genocide. And we will continue reporting as we always do. Just thank you to everyone.